And I do have shirts, but I have given them all out. I'm too broke right now to order.
Yeah,
so once I have more,
and I'll get you a flow one as well. Don't worry. Dude, we're doing this like tournament on Saturday. We're entering kids, and it's like this one out in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And it's like $30 per kid to enter the tournament, and we're like, all right, we'll make it so it's like 55 total if you want to keep like the shirt. And kids are texting like, what material is the shirt? I'm like, just buy the fucking shirt. It's $25. You know what I mean?
That's unreal. Yeah, I'm excited. I would love to go this Friday.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Today's guest is curious, mission-driven, passionate, focused, and selfless. Owen Miller is building access and mentorship through the game of soccer in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and surrounding communities. As a player, he endured 4 surgeries during his college career, setbacks that would have caused many to walk away. But Owen stayed close to the game, and in his young coaching career, he's continued to deepen his impact, not just by developing players, but by shaping people. Welcome, Owen, to the Walk On Way.
That was incredible. Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
it's actually, unfortunately, 5 surgeries. So
5. Is this all?
No, just since. So it started. So I got the first one was 18, and the last one was this past August. So 5 over the past 5 years or so.
Wow.
6 years. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Were they all related?
Kind of. So the first one was meniscus, and then a year later was ACL, and then it got kind of messy from there. So it was like I had a hernia that like may not have needed surgery. That one went kind of poorly, and then we've been kind of trying to deal with that ever since. So I'd say the knee ones are fine now. I don't really think about those too much, but I'd say like where I still struggle with is probably the hernia ones.
Those are like the most annoying things ever. I had like a minor one.
Yeah.
One of my teammates had a bad one they got surgery for, and it just seemed to just never go back.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's one of the things that like I didn't really, so like going straight into it, like in I had my first game back from my ACL, and it was March of 2021. So it was over a year, it was well over a year of actually playing because COVID had hit in between. And so, you know, it was I felt some pain in my groin. I was like, what is this? I didn't feel a bulge or anything. And then I saw a doctor, and they did the hernia test. It's not very pleasant for those that and then he was like, yeah, you need a surgery. And I was kind of like, like that's it? Like not a scan or anything? And I was really desperate to continue to play at that point.
Didn't do an ultrasound or anything?
Didn't even do an ultrasound.
Really?
Yeah. Which in hindsight, it was like, I tell that now and people are like, dude, what were you doing? But it was more like, you do trust the experts, you know what I mean? And so like, you're skeptical, but you're also just like, and now I'm very much like, get a 5th opinion, get as many opinions as possible.
What kind of, was this a PT, doctor?
This was like a general doctor, and so it, kind of getting into it is he sent me right away to a surgeon, and the surgeon did the exact same thing, but it was one cough, and they make you cough, and do some other things too, but and he was like, yeah, you need a surgery. And since then, it was May 10th, I remember, I'm weird with like dates and timelines, but like May 10th of 2021, I was like, crap, like this is like after I got that surgery, I was like, this is never getting better. And like since then, it's just been like, and there's like a whole thing about it. Like you can look it up, but like what happens when you have a hernia is they put mesh over it, so it's like a hole and they're putting mesh over it. And 3% of people have, 97% of people are just like, it goes great. 3% of people have just like chronic pain for the rest of their lives because of the mesh. I guess I'm in that 3%, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pain.
Yeah.
I want to dive more into like the injuries and the playing career, but I just wanted to start very beginning. This is a super general question, but I was hoping you could kind of give a synopsis, just walk me through kind of your upbringing, childhood, and any like formative moments.
To
the playing career.
For sure. So I grew up, I was actually born in Minnesota, but moved to Massachusetts when I was very young. So spent pretty much all my life in Medford, Massachusetts, not too far from here. Grew up, kind of played for a couple different clubs. I played for this club called AC Arlington. Actually, the kid Ariane that we just mentioned was also on that team. So it was crazy. Like it was this local club in Arlington, Massachusetts, and we were all like 10 years old, and I'm pretty sure like 12 of those kids went on to play Division I. Like it's crazy when you look back like that. And then went over to Bolts, and then from there finished my club career at NEFC. Went to Medford High, played there as well. So I didn't end up playing academy. I ended up playing for club and in high school. And yeah, it's been a huge part of my life. And then from there, ended up playing at UMass-Lowell. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Medford native, lots of Massachusetts roots there.
Yeah.
When you might have mentioned this, when did you start playing?
Age 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And it was mostly club, academy.
Yeah, honestly, it's been a little bit of everything. And like, honestly, where I grew up in Medford, I don't know if this is still the case, but there was a huge culture of pickup soccer. So though club was a part of my life, it wasn't like, and honestly, like now someone who has coached at club soccer, like it's gotten even crazier. But a lot of my life within soccer was pickup. I was fortunate to grow up in Medford where there were a lot of immigrants from different areas, Haiti specifically, Brazil, Central America as well. And, you know, I was always able to, like, there was a park near me called Playstead Park, and we would always play pickup there with the Haitian kids. And then as I got older, we kind of helped form this pickup culture when I was in high school. We would go to Tufts University's field, because obviously it's in Medford. We'd also go to, there was this temple, Jewish temple in West Medford, and in the back there was these lights that were on, so you could play like all night. It was just on the, it was on the field. It was just on like concrete. So, so I'd say the reason I'm so passionate about soccer isn't necessarily like my passion didn't come through playing for different teams. It came from the pickup world.
Yeah. The grassroots.
The grassroots, exactly. Yeah.
And then how did you end up at UMass-Lowell?
It's a funny story. So the current head coach at BC, Bob Thompson, was my club coach when I was like 10 at Bolts. And he was actually the assistant at UMass-Lowell when I went there. So he coached me at Bolts when I was 10 for a year, and then he went over to NEFC. And then I think like 3 years later, I went over to NEFC as well. And, you know, it was pretty simple. Like at the time, so my senior year of high school, UMass-Lowell this was 2016. So UMass-Lowell was like randomly just became like a powerhouse, like a local powerhouse. They got all these Croatian kids, and yeah, there were like, you know, I think they went like 14-1-1.
Wow.
And I was a local kid, so I had in-state tuition. I wasn't like highly recruited, but Bob Thompson, who I'm very grateful for getting me to UMass-Lowell, kind of said like, listen, we can't guarantee any minutes. I was also young for like I was 17 as a freshman, as one of those like, but he was like, we can't guarantee any minutes, but like because you have in-state tuition, my mom actually worked at the school as well, so I had some tuition half off for that reason as well. He was like, just come to UMass-Lowell, you know, see if you like it for a year, and if not, you can transfer. And I was kind of like, the second I committed, which was January or February of my senior year, I was like, I gotta lock in. Like I gotta be ready for preseason and everything. So it's funny now because like I work with so many different high school kids that are so interested in the recruiting process and all that kind of stuff, and they're like, well, how was yours? I was like, my club coach said like, do you want to maybe play for this team? And I was like, sure. So like it was pretty simple for me. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. And what was it like starting out there? So obviously you had this connection with Bob Thompson. Seemed like a pretty straightforward process in terms of like getting in.
Right.
But how was it like breaking into the team? And you know, what was your experience early on?
Definitely. So I remember getting there, and well, I watched a session like the year before on like a recruiting tour, and there was this kid Jakov Basic, who now plays in the first division in Croatia. I watched him at a training, and I was like, "There's no way I can compete here." Like it was like that, cause like it was just like stuff you've never, you know, you see a good local kid, and it's like, you know, he's going to like a Louisville or something. He's solid. He plays a Revs, you know. But then you see this, and you're like, "What? He's a 6'3", just flawless technically, 6." So I remember like that was the level in my head that I was like, I need to like not get to that level, but like be able to like not embarrass myself in front of that level. So I was really nervous going in. Like I remember that morning going into preseason, just lying on my floor, like just like, please, like don't, like I just don't want to do this. Why am I doing this? And then the fitness test went really well that morning. But I remember the first session, I went home, went onto Google and started looking up like local D3 school. like literally like I can't do this. And I talked to a couple of kids. They're like, dude, you'll ease in, don't worry. Now I thought that I was just going to redshirt that year, but I did start to really grow into the team. And so, you know, I remember I played a little bit in a preseason game against BC, like very small amount, but I was like, okay, like I'm still probably going to redshirt. And then our first game was against CCSU, and at halftime, you know, one of our coaches, Andre, who I'm so close with, he said, Owen, was thinking he was gonna be like grab the waters or something, and he was like, you're going in. And I remember just like heart is like, you know what I mean? So from there as a freshman, like I think I ended up playing more than any other freshman and ended up having a good role off the bench. I wasn't a starter. I started one game. And then you started to kind of like that imposter syndrome started to kind of go away. So, we lost in the America East Finals that year at home, which was tough, but I was really motivated to, stay a big part of that team, continue to grow. I think once you see something that's so out of reach, you start to see yourself actually get closer to that. You're like, okay, like anything's possible at this point. So just continue to work. And then sophomore year, I was a pretty consistent starter. I think I started in like 15 of the games. And then from there is when the injury started to happen. And so I was starting in a big role for whenever I was healthy. I was the captain junior and senior year. But I would say my career in regards to like impact on the field was like this and then kind of like this, just because of the inconsistency and then COVID hitting and all that kind of stuff.
So going back to your first year, you talked about like how you were lying on the floor before the first session. Was it like just lots and lots of nerves, and what was that like? Walk me through that headspace.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly it. It was lots of nerves, and I think that it was. There's a part of you that like I think everyone only sees the negatives of themselves, and they only see the best of themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a part of you that like, sometimes you'll be playing maybe pickup or something and you're like, there's no one out there better than me. Mm-hmm. But then there's also times where it's the complete opposite. But I think there's that part of you that's like, all right, if I'm at my best, I can play here. But I remember that morning just being like, I'm not gonna be able to show it. And that was kind of like how I was feeling. And I think it wasn't just the on-field stuff, but I think it was just like, this is a new world. It's not like, fortunately, I mean, it was a local school. Like I knew people going to the school, but like, you get it. Like the athletic world is different. It's completely new kids. Everyone there was European or like no one was from here. And so I was just nervous to kind of start this new chapter where I was at least a year younger than everyone else on the team. But, with time, those nerves started to go away. And I mean, nerves are always there, but they definitely, I think once you start to realize like, okay, you can do this, they go away more and more.
Interesting. And then, so your injury started
sophomore year. Yeah.
And they just kind of persisted up until your graduation.
Yeah. So, up until now, but,
right.
But no, my sophomore year, we played UNH in the playoffs and, we lost, which was a common theme. And it was weird. Like I played like 70 minutes that game. It was away at night, and played at UNH, very cold, in November. And I remember that like I didn't feel anything. And then the next day, I was like, why can't I walk? And I think it was because of the adrenaline. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was like just a small little meniscus trim, very brief surgery. I ended up playing the spring. I ended up having a great summer with Western Mass Pioneers out in USL2. And then redid my meniscus that last game for Western Mass Pioneers. Tried to play through it my junior year, and then had to just sit out. So I ended up sitting out after 6 games. Then in December of 2019, which was my junior year, my first practice back, I tore my ACL. It was like 3 touches back, and it was on my other knee.
Were these contact, non-contact?
So the meniscus, I have no idea, because like I just don't know how it even formed, but it was from that game. Okay. The ACL was contact. There was a kid who was walking on or trying to walk on, and our legs kind of got tangled, and like my leg got stuck, and I twisted, and I just heard it, and it was just so loud. And like, it's funny now, you see people like, some people will say like, yeah, I was able to walk after. I was like, I'm not too proud to admit I was screaming bloody murder. I was crying. Like, it was, and you know what I mean? Like, right away I was like, I just tore my ACL. Yeah. So, I mean, from that moment in my life, I haven't been pain-free, I would say. From this, I mean, from my knee, I'm okay, but just one thing kind of led to another, and so, yeah.
Okay. And then the hernia, that was all after university?
Yeah, so obviously COVID hits in March of 2020, and so I'm gonna be careful of what I say here too, because like I don't want to badmouth anyone specifically, but I do definitely feel like things could have been done differently, so I won't mention any names or anything, but COVID hit in March of 2020, and then everyone had to go home, and I, rehab is very important in person, and I had to do it remotely with our athletic trainer. It wasn't with like a full-on physical therapist. And then in August, which would have been 8 months post-surgery, I was walking with a limp still. And you've seen people tear their ACL, and like they're like, the worst thing during these injuries is comparison. But everyone's like, oh, you know, I was like playing by then. So eventually I reached out to this physical therapist named Steph Allen. This person's good, so I'm going to mention their name. Her and her husband, Zach, like completely, you know, helped me just recover to full fitness. But just on the emotional side of everything too, they were so helpful. So then, I mean, soccer didn't resume until January anyways because of COVID and everything. That fall season was canceled. And then that March of 2021, my first game back was against URI. Actually, Patrick Augumang was playing that guy.
Really?
Yeah, that was my first. Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, exactly. And the next day, it was when I'd say from there, I was the happiest I've ever been. We lost 1-0, but I was the happiest I've ever been. Selfishly, played 90 minutes, played well, and next day, I just felt like this like pain in my groin, and I was like, you know, what is this? Like, there's no way. It's just, hopefully it's just a pulled groin, and then like nothing was getting better. And then, honestly, in hindsight, it very well could have been. You know, I don't think it was a hernia, and like I think that I got a surgery that I didn't need. And it all stems from like the mindset of like I wanted to go pro, I wanted to keep playing, or I didn't want to end my career like this. So I was like, I'll do anything. And so in hindsight, like right now at the age of 25, it's a big kind of wrestling match with myself and like being able to let go of the past. You know, there's a lot of this happens to a lot of people where a surgery goes wrong and there's a lot of resentment towards so many people involved. So I'm trying right now at 25 to live my life in a way where I forgive what happened in the past and recognize that I can't change it. Doing everything to try to relieve chronic pain, and like, you know, it's difficult. You know, you're losing sleep. You know, I was at a concert on Tuesday night, and halfway through I just started sitting down at the concert. You know, it was Hosier.
Yeah.
So
I felt my friends, right?
really, yeah. And I'm just like, what am I doing? You know, like it's things like that, but it's also like you're never gonna live in an enjoyable life if you're living in like anger towards people in the past and things that just like you can't undo.
Yeah, no, that's true. And do you know when you went under, like, did they like confirm that there was something?
He did. He's like, oh, it's a small hernia, and I'm like not conspiratorial or anything usually, but I think that like at the end of the day, I think that we always put people in authority at almost a higher like level, like whether it's a doctor, a surgeon, or a coach, or a teacher, or a professor. You think that they can't be flawed,
right?
And I think that there's a good chance maybe there was a tiny little hole, but I'm sure that any of us would have that. And he said, yeah, it was fine, you know, everything went smoothly. And I saw him 2 months later, and I was like, well, you know, why am I still in pain? He was like, I'm sure that like it'll go away eventually. And ironically now, like I said, I'm not going to mention this surgeon's name, but he's if you go on his reviews online, he's actually, a lot of people are like, this guy ruined my life, and now he's out of work, he's out of a job.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
So yeah, I mean it's like, you know, I think that surgeons are going to protect themselves, and he's not going to be like, dude, I screwed up. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry that happened.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
it's really unfortunate. So through all those injuries, what was like the hardest part? Obviously you've talked a little bit about after the fact, like some feelings of resentment for like surgery that went wrong, but specifically like being taken out of the game. What was hard about that? What did you learn? Were there any like challenges to your identity?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think I'd say the first time I was really taken out of the game was ACL, because when it's meniscus, it's like a month recovery, and you know what I mean? Like but when it was your ACL, it was like that's when I was really taken out of the game, and I was I would have been either 19 or 20 at the time. I think I was 20, so I was like, okay, like now reality is sitting in. This probably one's not going to continue for much longer. And then COVID happened, and so like I think a lot of us had to figure stuff out about ourselves, and soccer was my identity my whole life. It still is, but playing it was my identity. And so we all had all the time in the world once COVID hit, and I had to kind of figure out what will life look like when this ends. I don't want to be trying to figure that question out when it does end, because as I've learned at this point, it can be any second. What is something that is bigger than my physical body that can, last me forever? And so I started doing some private sessions then for, I think it was, a lot of them were free. I was working for this company at the time, and it was, COVID, you'd wear a mask, it'd be socially distanced. But during that, I just completely fell in love with just the concept of coaching. I didn't know which direction I wanted to go, but without sounding cliche, helping others in soccer was something that I didn't ever really realize. I was a player my whole life, and I was like many players, it's all about me. And I was a captain. I wasn't a good captain, especially in high school. Like, I was so focused on myself. And then when you realize, okay, why do I love this game in the first place? And it's like, of course, it's fun to play the game. Tactically, I'm a nerd. But then when you really break it down, it's like, oh, it's the relationships and everything. And so you started to see that, like, there's a lot of kids out there that want to be like Neymar. There's also a lot of kids out there that just want to be like you. That they want to be able to play in college. They want to be able to, use soccer as an outlet. And so, in hindsight, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, that injury, because I was starting to like watch film. Like, I would be watching like 2006 Brazil, like on YouTube, because I had nothing else to do. Like, you're going so deep, and so I really had to find a different identity, which was still in soccer, but it was a different side of soccer.
Interesting. So that is where you were kind of introduced to coaching, that COVID period.
Yeah.
And you're in one-on-one sessions. Okay. And what did you like about it? What did you like about the coaching?
It's a good question. I think it's cool when you, like, for me, there's nothing cooler in the world than like people that want to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love watching people want to learn something. And like, I was watching, I'm not gonna get political at all, but I was watching Bernie Sanders on a podcast yesterday, and like, I was watching how like he's lost all of his hair, but I'm like, but he's so passionate about what he does. And so like, I was kind of thinking about that within soccer, of just like, I love working with people that are so passionate about what they do, and they just want to get better. And so what was so enjoyable about coaching then was like, when kids are asking questions, hey, I want to get better at hitting a long ball, or I want to be able to get my shot off quicker, or things like that. And then for me, not being able to answer those right away, but for me then also learning, how do I answer these questions, that was really rewarding once things started to click. And I think that on top of that, there's the soccer piece of things, and then there's just the concept of like gratitude, when gratitude is expressed. And I was working with a kid during the pandemic, and his mom texted me. My mom knew his mom, and he was younger, and said like, hey, he's trying out for his freshman team in high school next year, and he wants to do some private sessions. And then later the mom texted me and was like, hey, this kid gets bullied all the time. For a Division I athlete to then work with them, it's like, you have no idea how much of an impact you've made. And so there are things like that also that were like, to in a community like soccer, for someone to be able to help someone like that, it means a lot more. And so it was moments like those where you like start to realize like, hey, this is to a degree even better and more rewarding than playing. So,
wow. Yeah. That's a pretty powerful anecdote. And we talked a couple weeks ago when we got coffee.
Yeah.
And you were talking about using soccer basically as a vehicle for like social change and mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that anecdote was a nice segue into that conversation. Can you speak to that? Like, how do you see soccer as that vehicle?
100%. I think it's something that I didn't realize until I graduated, or maybe until like college, of seeing that like, it's without debate the biggest sport, most popular sport in the world. And I started to realize like, what did soccer do to me? I wrote a letter to no one, but I wrote a letter we called Dear Soccer when I was a graduator, like leaving the sport. And I was talking like how it impacted my life. And I'm trilingual. I speak Spanish and Portuguese fluently. My name's Owen Miller. I'm a pretty white kid. I have no background. I have no Hispanic background or anything. But I have noticed that I use these two languages in my life every day, whether it's, someone at the grocery store needs help translating, or, you're getting a coffee and you hear that person has a Brazilian accent, you're like, I'm going right into this right now. I realized, like, oh wow, like I know so many people, I have such incredible relationships, I'm trilingual now, and I'm like, me playing soccer wasn't for necessarily for the amazing moments that happened on the field, like those are great, but also just the impact it made on my life, of the relationships, being able to get an education, being able to speak 3 languages, and I see it in other people's lives. And I mentioned, being in a town where there were a lot of immigrants. I have seen soccer be something that can bring those kids to college, and I've also seen, specifically within immigrant populations, but every type of population, the lack of mentorship in soccer not being able to bring them to colleges, and I think that I've seen too many people that had a 1.8 GPA and they weren't able to go to college afterwards, though soccer could have gotten them there. And I work with a lot of kids from East Boston, Cambridge, Roslindale, Mattapan, Dorchester, and I see them on the path where soccer can continue to take them to these different places in life, but they need that guidance. And so I think that what the past year, 2 to 3 years has been is trying to create a community where you're able to not necessarily get somebody just into college, but be a good mentor and be a good role model that inspires these kids to do something, right? And to do something and be motivated within school. And so yeah, I think that like soccer we see it across the world, but it can unite different communities. It can change people's lives. And so I think that to a degree, like my gift is somewhere in the world of soccer. It's like, how can I make an impact on my local community within that? So yeah.
And why do you think there is, you talked about soccer being something that can help people get to college, get an education, but also there's like a lack of mentorship in the game to kind of make that jump? Why do you think there is that lack?
It's a good question. I think that a couple of reasons. I think that there's often, I think coaches are similar to teachers. They're very underpaid. And so I think that some of the best people out there aren't coaches because of that reason. And so I think that there are often coaches in certain areas, whether it's at a club or a high school or a college even, that aren't good mentors because they're not necessarily the best people, right? And I know that sounds weird to say, but I think that if you are a coach, of course it's your job with, let's say, the 30 kids that you coach, the 20 kids that you coach, to help them in whatever aspect in life. But more importantly, you need to be a good role model. And when people talk about discipline, right, they think that it's waking up at 5 a.m., making this person. But the root of the word, the Latin root, it's disciple, right? So it's like, if I'm behaving correctly, if I'm showing up on time, if I'm showing you that, I'm a compassionate person, if I can create a relationship with you where I am able to yell at you, but it doesn't really impact our relationship. Yeah, maybe I'm not getting you into this college, but that alone is inspiring these kids, right? And so I think that was your question why there's not enough good mentors out there?
Yeah.
I think that there's a variety of reasons, but I think that the biggest thing is that people don't realize, who are in these positions of coaching or teaching or anything along those lines, they don't realize how important their job is, because a lot of these people look up to you, as a role model.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one way I think about just like relationships in general is like, or how you show up in the world is like, if you show up well, like you're saying, you're setting an example, and if you're impacting just the people around you, you're kind of doing your role in the world. And if everyone did that, then it's like the ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
But coaches and teachers, like you're saying, kind of have that magnified because they have a lot of people looking up to them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that's awesome. So I listened to the Select Generation.
Oh yeah.
I think was that in March.
Yeah, I think March of like last year.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
and you were talking a little bit about how actually for a time you wanted to be a therapist.
Yes.
And I was just wondering why.
Yeah.
And are there any parallels in coaching? Like, does coaching kind of still scratch that itch?
Yeah. Man, that's an amazing question, and like kudos to you. You did your research, because I forgot I even recorded that. Shout out to the guy at Select Generation, Sam. He's an awesome dude. I remember we were just I was asking him questions, and he was like, "Hey, can we just do a podcast?"
Yeah.
So that's so funny. And I didn't even remember mentioning that. Yeah, like, so I was a psych undergrad. That was my major, and it was psychology has just always been extremely fascinating to me, of just like how the mind works, and not only just how the mind works, but like why do we suffer in life? Like, why do we suffer mentally? Why do we have depression? Why do we have anxiety? Mental illnesses. Like, I've had close friends of mine that have developed mental illnesses in life. Like, why does this person develop schizophrenia or bipolar disorder? Or I also spent some time in Spain after college. Like, why did I see significantly less cases of depression there than we do here? And so I think that when and I also think like everyone that's a psych major is somewhat neurotic themselves. I'm like an extremely neurotic person. Like, I'm always like, I'm super anxious. Like, I'm always just like overthinking things. And I think that most people that were in my psych classes too are just trying to figure themselves out in a way. And so I wanted to be a therapist. I had heavily considered it, and I still don't, like, there's always that part of me that's like, maybe one day that's like, but I like the concept of like being able to help others with their mental health problems and things along those lines. But I didn't end up going into it for a variety of reasons. Though I do think that therapy is important. I have a lot of issues with how it's done here, of how, like, I mean, I don't even want to fully get into all of them, but I think that it also would have been too heavy for me, if I'm being honest. Like, I think that I like, hopefully through coaching, which I'll get to in a second, coaching is ideally, like, therapy can be putting the bandage on or helping heal the scar, whereas in coaching, I'm trying to prevent that scar from even happening in the first place. And so with therapy, I don't know if I would have had the emotional, because I always wanted to stay in coaching and soccer, and so I would have had to do both. And I don't know if I'd be able to coach a group of 30 kids if one of my clients had just died by suicide or something. I don't think I could have done that. And I'm fortunate that I'm like at least aware enough to know that. Yeah. So in regards to coaching soccer, I think that it's our like duty as people to like impact someone in your life. And I think that like in therapy, you're kind of told to impact everyone. Like if I'm a general therapist and I'm working with a 60-year-old person who had just recently lost their husband versus like a 22-year-old who's struggling with like social anxiety, like at the end of the day, there's stuff that I can read and do to try to help them, but I've never been in either of those positions. Maybe the 22-year-old, yeah. But like, but within soccer, I'm like, okay, like, I guess it's my duty to help the people that I have, that I can relate to. Yeah. And, there's been a lot of times where kids that I coach in college, kids that I coach in high school, this past year, were like, they're like, hey man, I'm going through some shit right now. Sorry, I'm going to swear. Yeah, I'm going through some shit right now. Like, I can't be at these next couple days, and especially coaching at the college level, there's a lot of college kids are struggling right now. There's been kids that like have broken down to me. And, I always tell them, like, I'm not qualified for anything here, but here's like my advice. And so, there's 100% an impact between coaching and, there's a correlation between coaching and therapy. And I think that I try to use the stuff that I study in psychology, like through mindfulness and, anything along those lines within the players that I coach. But I probably don't think I'll ever be a full therapist. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I like how you kind of described coaching as almost like preventative medicine.
Yeah.
And then, I guess therapy is more like critical care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really interesting. Just curious, you mentioned having some issues with therapy, because I have some like opinions on that too.
Yeah.
We don't have to go deep on it.
Yeah.
I was just curious what were like the things that come.
Yeah. So I think a few things. I think that one of the big things is how what I've seen, at least I haven't seen a therapist like consistently in my life, but I have here and there, and some of the things I noticed is like the financial component to it, of like, let's say that I'm a therapist that charges $200 an hour. There's a part of me that doesn't want you to be fully healed, because then I lose $200 an hour. So like I noticed it, and the reason I stopped going.
Like the surgeon as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly it. And so like one of the reasons I stopped going to a therapist once was because like I remember him like building up what we were going to talk about, and he was like, "Oh, we're going to get to this next week." Like, and I'm like, "All right," like here's however much money it was, and so, and then it goes back to like the capitalism, where like the richest people are able to afford the best therapists.
Mm-hmm.
Like my uncle's a therapist. I had a phone call with him, and we were talking about just like going to the world of therapy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like all the best therapists I knew don't take insurance." And so if it's $200 an hour, like at Flow, we're working with kids from Haiti who had just moved here. It's like, if they need therapy, they're not going to be able, and I know some therapists take insurance, I know, but like at the end of the day, like it's really hard to get a good therapist. And so the rich people are able to access the top, and the poor people aren't able to access it. And more often than not, I mean, everyone needs therapy. Like, different people need therapy for different reasons. If you're rich, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't need therapy or anything, but like everyone needs access to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, what are your thoughts?
No, I think that's interesting. The one thing that I sometimes think about is, again, I have never been to like formal therapy. I've just done like sports psychology, which I feel like felt similar.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just felt a little bit ruminatory.
Yeah.
Like kind of just staying, like talking about like how hard something is, and just like getting stuck there.
Yeah.
And again, I know there's like different types of therapists and stuff, but that's sometimes a concern of mine, is that people go into it and it's just like you just keep talking about,
oh my God,
focus on the negative.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, how does that make you feel?" I'm like, "Terrible. That's why I'm here. That's literally why I'm here." Yeah. No, 100%, dude, 100%.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I don't know much about it, but that was just like a thought I had, so I was curious.
Yeah.
You also mentioned on that same podcast, the Select Generation, two things I want to talk about. I'm going to quote you here twice. So hopefully you still think these things.
Yeah.
But one of them was, you said D3 is a little bit more selfless, D1 is a little bit more selfish. I think that makes sense, but I want you to expand on that more. And then after that, I was hoping to dive into, you said coaching is almost more relational than tactical, and I wanted to get into that kind of balance.
Great. Start with the first one.
Yeah.
So I said that. You're right. I think. I'm just trying to think, like, at least where I was. Now, I was at a school that it's a state school. It's a great school, UMass-Lowell. But a lot of the people weren't there necessarily just for the education.
Right.
And so because of that, like 80% of the team was trying to play professionally. Probably similar at UVM, like great school, state school. Most of the kids were trying to play pro there, right? I know two kids there, and they're both trying to play pro, right? You do the thing, yeah. And so I think that because of that, you think of where you're at as a stepping stone still. Like everything's a stepping stone, and that was how it felt for me. And so like often kids, I will not too proud to admit this, there was times where like I wasn't playing and I would almost be relieved if we didn't win, because it was like it's such a bad teammate mentality, but like I wanted to continue playing. I wanted to be starting because of X, Y, and Z, and like, yeah, I mean, so many kids on our team were like that, and I love the kids on our team. Like, it's the environment. It's not anyone's fault.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's the same at a school like an Ivy League. So that when I say D1, I guess I mean like blue collar D1 maybe, or like, but I think at an Ivy, like I was talking to a kid at an Ivy League who's like very good, and he starts every game, and he was going to his senior year, and I was like, so you're gonna try to get drafted? He was like, pro, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm going to fucking Harvard, you know what I mean? Like, he was like, why would I go? And so it could be different there. So at the D3 level, where I work now, I don't think from what I can tell, like any of the kids are trying to go pro, and so they're like, this is the last 4 years of my life with soccer, where it's at a competitive world. So like, let's make the most of it. And of course, like if a kid's not playing, like, you know, he's really upset. It's human nature. But at the same time, I think that it's very much like focusing on the now. Whereas if I could do my career over again, I would have been so much more selfless as a player in college. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for most Division III players, everyone knows.
Yeah.
It's like the end, at least playing wise. So I feel like just being present is easier. Being team focused is easier.
Yeah.
Whereas D1, I imagine I bet like an ACC where it's like really high level and you have a lot of eyes on you, so you have a better shot at going pro. I would imagine it's easier to be selfish. It's harder to be team focused.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the times, even though it feels like being selfish is like the optimal strategy to get drafted, really I feel like being selfless and like being a team player, it's gonna make the team better. It's gonna make you actually better.
Yeah.
So
it
sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah. Can I say a quick thing on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was this kid who I know him. I'm friends with him, but he played at UMass-Lowell a year before I got there. I won't mention his name, but it's fine. He was entering his senior year of college the year before I got there, and he had a kid. And his whole life he was like, I'm going pro. I need to do this to go pro. Blah 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 blah. And he had a kid, and then he said to one of my friends, he was like, this year, like I'm all right. I gotta focus on my kid after, so like I'm gonna finish up this year, and then he got drafted. Wow. So the one year that he was like, I shouldn't be. I'm not gonna go pro anymore. Yeah. Then he went pro. So it's so weird. Like it's so interesting like that. Like it's so much easier said than done. But like being process oriented rather than just like so goal oriented, it will help you so much more in your career. Yeah.
Is that something you harp on a lot with? We haven't even really formally touched on Flow, but I'd love to talk about Flow.
Yeah.
Which is your coaching company. Is it nonprofit?
It is a for-profit, but we work with different nonprofits in the Boston area to kind of help fund things.
Yes. Can you just actually talk about Flow, and then if the what you talked about, the process focus, if that ties in at all to your coaching philosophy, I'd love to hear about that too.
Yeah, so Flow has been it's a business that my best friend and business partner, which I hate calling him that, David Gaitis, and I started. We were doing it kind of like under the table for a couple years. Like it all started because when I graduated, I wanted to just get better as a coach. Because when you start running group sessions, like people don't understand how hard it is. Sessions with a team, like you do a possession drill your whole life, and you're like, oh, this is fine. And then you become a coach, and it's way too tight. You don't know how to say like the right, like how do you make it competitive? Like there's so many different things. Like when I first started running sessions, I was like, this is horrible. And so I was like, I need to get better. So I would be hosting these sessions of college players, and kids that were going to play in college, kids that I know were just like hungry. And this was in the summer of 2022. David was still playing at this point. He's a little bit younger than me in college at Emmanuel, and I would get like 6 kids, and I'd be like, just give me $5 each, if that. Some kids wouldn't even pay, and I would do that. We were able to create this kind of cool community of kids that were just showing up from different schools. I wasn't working with any high schoolers at the time, and then over time I was working full-time in club and part-time in college, and still kind of full-time, and so I was like, I can't really do any business on the side. And then last summer we made it official, where it was like, dude, why don't we just like make this into something? Like we started talking to more people that are like, hey, I want to be doing this, or like more parents were saying like, hey, my kid really wants to work on this. And we were like, all right, there's definitely room for this. Like, can we make it into a full-time thing? Like, we'll see. And so I think we both were coaching club soccer this spring. We both just stepped away to focus fully on Flow. So essentially what it is, the reason for doing this was like, we felt that, I don't want to say anything bad about club soccer, but like we felt that like this would allow us to work with a larger group of people year round. There's really no red tape anywhere, and so you're your own boss. You can try different things, and so essentially what it is it's a organization where we do private training, small group training, large group training, so like 15 to 20 kids, We do college ID things. We were able to host a free college ID thing back in late May. We do pickup soccer, and within this we also do mentorship. We're now working with Boston Unity Project, which is a nonprofit, where we're actually helping mentor 15 kids that are inner city kids on like how to coach. So we do a lot of different things, but when we work with different age groups, we work with college a lot in the summer, but I'd say primarily the group that we work with right now is high schoolers. So it's a lot of different things, but I can't lie, like since I've started doing it as a full-time thing, I haven't been more excited about something in my life. You know, like you kind of see this like just like the autonomy, right? Like the autonomy of just being able to create different things and help. Like three different kids yesterday texted me that they just got a college offer. So it was just like everything's just kind of coming together right now, and it is a grind. Like we're working probably 70 hours a week right now, but yeah, I couldn't be more grateful to be doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to I think I wrote it down somewhere. The kind of mission of Flow. I think this is pulled from your website.
Yeah.
Flow Soccer is a relationship-driven development platform dedicated to reignite passion and creativity in young athletes. We provide game-specific, joy-centered training that helps players thrive on and off the field. Flow Soccer, play with purpose.
Yes. Shout out to ChatGPT. No. Okay. But yeah, no. So honestly, the reason we started it is like soccer is so, at least in the United States, it is so transactional. And, you know, I lived in Spain for 6 months, and so I was able to see a little bit the landscape out there and how different it is. And moving back here, we're seeing a ton of kids burning out within soccer, within youth soccer, youth sports probably in general. I'm just not involved in any others, but kids are falling completely out of love with the game because of the insane college process, the insane travel that is going on right now. Like people are traveling Rochester from Boston for one game, 8-hour drive for one game and back. Maybe they play 30 minutes. You know, they're training 4 nights a week and driving an hour. And right now, the world of soccer, not just in America, it's very methodical. Like everything is very strict and rigid, and coaches are the main characters and not players. And so we were kind of like, can we create a space where people are just an environment where people are enjoying playing soccer? That's the main thing. Like, is your touch going to get better? Are you going to get better at finishing? Are you going to get better in these specific positions? Like, hopefully. But, like, are you going to be enjoying what you're doing? And, like, why do we play soccer? Like, let's not bullshit ourselves. We're in America. We're not playing it to get ourselves out of the favelas, right? Like, if I'm growing up in, you know, Wilmington, Massachusetts, I don't work with anyone from there, so I had to make sure I picked them. But, like, I'm not playing soccer to, like, bring my family out of the hood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm doing it because I like it. And then you hit a point in your life once, maybe when it's the college process starts, where it's all transactional. I'm just doing this to get recruited, or I'm just doing this to because of status, so I can put MLS next to my bio, or any of these kind of things. I don't care about the coach that I have. I don't care about the teammates that I have. I care about the league that I'm in, and I care about that Instagram post. People's parents are putting insane pressure on kids to commit to schools, and it's sad. And so we're like, okay, we work with all different types of kids. We work with kids that have tons of money. They go to private schools. We also work with kids that come from absolutely nothing, that you know, maybe moved here 3 months ago. They don't even speak the language. We're like, can we bring everyone together and just create a space where they're enjoying it? That is the goal. And can we make it affordable? That's kind of the main purpose of what we're trying to do. And it's not easy. You know, like I said, like you know, I'm hanging out with my family. They'll see every 10 seconds, like, I gotta take a phone call, or I gotta text this person this, but yeah, I mean, we're working on it right now. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we kind of skipped over in between leaving Lowell and starting Flow. You had a bunch of coaching experiences.
Yeah.
I was curious if you could walk us through those coaching experiences and how you're able to take what you learned there and translate it into what you're doing now with Flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started in Spain. So I went to this company called Altruistic. I was there from January to June of 2022.
And you were done playing?
Done playing.
Fully,
yeah.
Right after Lowell?
Yes, my last game, I did something in my knee against UVM on, is it Virtue Field?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Virtue Field.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, so This was before Hernia?
This was before that was after the hernia. So it was just something, we weren't, they think it was just a bone bruise, but it was like, at that point I was like, I'm done. And that was our second to last game. We played UNH on my senior night. I didn't play, obviously, that game. But I was going to go to Spain originally to like start working with this company in Turay, as on top of that, trying to sign with like a 5th or 6th division team. And just to keep playing. And then I just called the guy and I was like, I'm done playing. Yeah. And so went out to Spain, totally new journey in my life. New country, new language, no one there was, at least the staff, no one there was Americans. I was only working with other Spaniards. And that was when I first really got into coaching. And at first I was more observing, which was more comfortable, but I wasn't growing as a coach. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, can I start like trying to run sessions? Like I remember running passing patterns at first, like the most simple passing pattern. I like wrote it out for like hours. Like, is this gonna work? Like, and then before I get there, I get like 8 kids. Like, let's just try this real quick before me. Like, I was so like such a bad coach at running sessions, and so, but being able to just learn the tactical side of Spain and how different it was, watching sessions there. Like, I was near Villarreal, so I would go to Villarreal sessions. I would go to their youth sessions, not their first team. I would go to Valencia's youth sessions, and like, just the level of just like tactics that go into their sessions and the efficiency. It's like they have everything set up before. It's 5 minutes of like across the river, and then they have like a 30-second water break, and then they're over here. Like everything was just so much more organized, and it's really not that much different than what we're doing here, but it's just like sharper. Yeah. So then I came back, and I started working full time at this club, Abbey Villa, where I had a team of kids born in 24, so like 8 and 9 year olds, 2 different age groups. And I was also working with BC. I was actually working with their goalkeepers. I was a center back.
How'd that happen?
Well, they needed a volunteer assistant. Yeah. And they were like, do you also want to work with our goalies? And I was like, well, I'm on the ACC staff. Like, I might as well. And so like, talk about like, honestly, I love the goalies that I worked with, like such good guys. But I had to talk to them at the beginning. I was like, I was not a goalie. I will come up with the best sessions I can possibly come up. But when they're like, should my like right hand have been a little, I'm like, dude, I don't know. You know what I mean? So like, so that was for 8 months or so. I was at BC working full time at Abbey Villa. And then Emerson came about. So I thought I wanted to stay in the D1 world, and then someone texted me and was like, hey, I'm leaving as the assistant. Would you be interested? And someone named Dan Tolson, who was the coach at Emerson at the time, interviewed me, and I was like 100%. I had 2 other job offers at the time that were like significantly more pay, and I was like, this just feels right. Like, the guy was amazing. I met the captains; they were amazing, and I was like, they told me more about like the culture that they're building and everything, and I was like, wow, like this is what I want to do. So I've been at Emerson since then as the first assistant. Now I work under the head coach. Ended up leaving to work at a prep school, so now I work under Liam McCursey, who's like just an incredible human. He's only 28 as a head coach, and I love it there. So I've been working there since. I also then that year after I went to work with IFA, we're the 08 MLS Next group last year, which is one of the better MLS Next teams in the country. Worked with a bunch of different U19 age groups, different levels, but all still really high level. I've helped assist at 2013s, just worked with so many different groups, and I think it really has shaped me to the coach I am today, because you're able to communicate with different people, right? Like, I think the one area that I want to start working more with is girls, because I've worked a little bit, I've covered sessions, I've done here, but like nothing fully. And so I think that being able to communicate and change your tone, change the way you motivate players, I think is really important as a coach. And so, yeah, I think that just like also being able to work alongside different coaches that run different types of drills, they have different types of styles, I think has been really helpful in just like creating my own kind of methodology within coaching. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so all that kind of led up to Flow.
Yeah.
Why did you start Flow? I know we talked about the mission. So
yeah. Yeah, I think that from a personal level, I think it was the concept of like entrepreneurship and just like being able to like do
the autonomy,
the autonomy. Like, I've worked a lot since I've graduated. Like, honestly, since I've graduated, I've worked at least 70 hours a week, pretty much every week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just like coaching, but like prepping sessions, recruiting, and you know, you think of someone who's working 70 hours a week, you think of someone on Wall Street making 400 grand, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, it came to a point where I was like, I have a somewhat healthy relationship with work. Like, I don't think it's like ruins the relationships in my life. I don't think it's that type of work, but I want to be able to establish when I'm working. And I want to be able to take kids over to Europe. I want to be able to run street soccer sessions. I want to be able to, you know, work with, one of the restraints of working at a club is that you can only work with 18 kids, right? Like, I want to work with the kid from this club, but it's like, well, no, he's at a different club. And so, you know, being club agnostic, I think is really just like valuable as well. And so I think just the opportunity for more, I want to be able to interview other coaches without, you know, there being any red tape around anything. So I think that was why on a personal level, why I started Flow. And then I think the word flow is, you know, going back to the whole, like, I started to talk about this for a second, but like, even in Europe right now, like if you look at like the concept of positional play and just like how rigid everything is.
Like the dotted lines on the field.
The dotted lines on the field, and exactly, like, okay, Ben White goes here, will sock, and then can take these 3 steps inward right here to receive the ball.
Yeah.
And it's like the top of the food chain is Pep, right? And he's he's not the founder of positional play, but he's like the modern pioneer of positional play. And so like, people complain about like what he's done with Grealish or what he's done with like whatever. It's Pep, he gets results, like, you know, but the problem is everyone's trying to do that. And so you look at like, someone tweeted, there's actually this coach out in England, Harry Brooks, great guy, and he tweeted like, imagine how good Saka would be if he played for Luis Enrique's PSG. Mm-hmm. And you look at, that's why everyone loved watching Luis Enrique's PSG this year, because it was so, of course there's tactics, right? He's not just like, all right, go out and play, but like, he was allowing Doué to underlap and Dembele to play centrally, and then like just so many different, allowing people to take players on. And so going back to flow, the flow state happens when you're getting less instructions, when you're thinking less. And so it's like, we were trying to, within our street soccer, within our free pickup soccer, even within the styles that we coach, of course we stop, we make coaching points, there's little things that we tinker with, but like, we wanted to create a place where kids are in the flow state. And like, there's a book called Flow. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's by, I can't pronounce the guy's name, but he's Russian. But he wrote it, and it's just like talking about like how important the flow state is in life, and how much that leads to happiness. And so yeah, we're trying to create a space where, like, the other thing is like how addicted kids are to their phones now. Like, I don't know what you're doing when you're on your own, but when you're at street soccer, you're building relationships and you're playing styles. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. What was the question? There were 2 things. Remember you said there was the select generation.
Right. The second question was about tactics versus, you kind of started talking about this, tactics versus like relationships and coaching.
Oh yeah.
I think you mentioned in that podcast, in the what's it called?
The Select Generation
podcast, that coaching is, you felt it was more relational than it was tactics.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it depends. I think it's like there's 3 components to like coaching, whereas it's like the players that you have, that is the number one thing. Like the if you have the best players, you can win more often than not, right? And then there's the relationships, like how you, when I say relationships, it's not like going out to dinner with these players, but it's like, how do I motivate them? And then the last thing is the tactical piece, right? You need to have good and clear tactics to get results. And it's very different depending on where you are. Like, you know, this podcast is all about me, but like, you were on a team that team ended up winning a national championship. So you've been at the tactics in that team are going to be very different than what you know, Arsenal is doing, because it's a 3-month season in college versus a 10-month season in the pros. And you know, the tactics that Luis Enrique is doing is very different than what Maresca is going to be doing, or maybe someone at Everton is going to be doing, because he also has the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. And so in regards to the players, that's the most important, right? Like, I remember when we got coffee like a month ago, you know, I was like, what was the key to UVM? And you were like, I mean, dude, at the end of the day, we have really good players. Like, let's not forget that, you know, like, you had all these, but you're like, great tactics, this and that, but like, we had amazing players. So players is the number one thing. Then it's how you motivate them. And I think it was Ange was talking about how one bad character in the locker room can screw everything up. So it's like, there are some kids that I coach where people will say, hey, just a heads up, he's kind of a head case, he's kind of a nightmare. And I see that more of a challenge than anything else. Like, I think some people, like, get rid of them. But it's like, kids are the way they are for different reasons. Whether it's their parents, whether it's the environment they grew up in, whether it's just the way their brains are wired. But it's like, how can I get the best out of this player? And I look at Ancelotti, like you, or Klopp, Zidane, I think, too, a little bit. I don't know as much. But, like, you've never heard of a fallout with any of it. Simeone, maybe. But, like, they are able to just get the best out of their players. Like, you look at Ronaldo, like, excuse my language, but, like, the guy's a dickhead, right? He's an asshole, right? Ancelotti's been able to get the best out of him, right? Like, and I think that the relation, and, you know, going back to psychology, it's like, how are we able to meet people at where they are? And so it's like, how am I able to motivate these people? And how am I able to understand why they are the way that they are? So that's, I think, like, you know, extremely important as well. And then there's the tactical piece. And so, like, I won't mention any teams collegiately, like, specifically, but, like, there are teams that have gone very far in the tournament, or that are always successful, like extremely successful, that are like, we're going to defend very well and do well on set pieces and play a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, there are teams at every division. Like, I'm not even thinking of one right now. And then there are teams that, like, are so rigid with their tactics, and they, like you said, like, okay, this player gets it in this zone, and then this player pops into the half space right here, and, like, you know, we're going to stay up till 3 a.m. watching film, and they go under 500 every single year, right? And so it's like the tactical piece is important, and people think that tactics mean complicated tactics, whereas, like, you know, I saw this interview with Ancelotti, and they were like, well, how are you going to get, like, Mbappe and Vinicius? He was like, well, the field's like 66 yards wide. Like, I'll put them both on the field. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I think that people think that it's just, like, very rigid and complex and all these different things. But sometimes it's like, how am I able in each phase of the game, which is like attacking, defending, transitioning from attacking to defending, and transitioning from defending to attacking. Like, how do I dominate in those 4 moments? That's it, right? Like, can you do that better than other teams? Then great, you know.
Yeah, just simplifying the game.
Simplifying the game. Yeah.
Going back to what you said about, like, periodization, you know, overcomplicating things, and even a little bit with the pay to play.
Yes.
What do you think U.S. youth soccer coaching is missing, and where do we have it right? Like, World Cup's right around the corner.
Yeah.
I feel like this is always a hot topic where I feel like big criticisms are typically, like we said, pay to play.
Yeah.
And I guess other people will point to that we kind of share our athletes across sports, whereas other countries, like, specialize maybe in one, like
right.
Spain, it's just soccer.
Right.
You see other sports, but
yeah.
I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
It's a great question. Like, I think that it's one that I have done a lot of thinking on. We're doing a lot of things right. I think it's really easy to get super critical about U.S. soccer. It's fun, it's easy. I think it's unfair to be super critical without offering any solution, right? And so, at the end of the day, you know, I'm friends with a lot of Croatians, right? I don't know how many Croatians you can fit in the U.S., but a bunch. And they have produced players that we have not gotten anywhere near producing. Like, forget Modric, but, like, even just like a Kovacic, or like people like that, like, we're nowhere near that, right? And so, what are we doing differently than these countries? I don't even necessarily think it's in the coaching. I think there are a lot of good coaches out there. Like, I've been
Pulisic Croatian.
Pulisic is his grandfather is.
That's so funny.
Yes, yeah. But even him, like, he left to Europe when he was like 13, 14. So, like, but our coaching, I don't think is necessarily as bad as people are making it out to be. Like, there are good coaches and bad coaches everywhere. And there's a lot of talent. Like, if you go to these MLS Next things, you know, we watch the Galaxy or Red Bulls, it's like, oh, like, those kids are way better than I was when I was playing. But I think that what we're lacking, there's a few things where I think it's wrong. I think we're traveling way too much. I think within youth soccer, we're traveling way too much. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, but, like, in Spain, there's 7 regions within the smaller country of Spain, and you play within your region until the end of the season, and then maybe you're going to a tournament here and there. Now we have kids that are going to Delaware one weekend, and then they're going to Florida the weekend after for IMG tournament, and then they go to California the weekend after. A, there's people that just can't afford that, right? And B, it's like, well, you could be playing against 3 teams that are very similar here in Massachusetts and be saving a lot of time. And that will burn kids out, which will make them less good at soccer. I think where we're also getting it wrong is, everyone talks about promotion, relegation, I'm not even going to get into that. It's more the concept that we don't have a first team for every club. Now, that was the difference when I was in Spain. You're playing in a team, you're playing for, let's say, a U14 team that's in the 7th division. That team has a first team that are also maybe playing in the 5th division. But even that 5th division team has, it's the local community where people show up with drums and sometimes flares, and so there's pride in who you play for, and you know how to win because of the promotion relegation. And so because of that, when there's pride for who you play for, when you are playing because you want to eventually sign a contract for that first play, even though it's not going to be your full-time job, there's more passion involved. And when there's more passion involved, you create more superstars. We are able to produce a wide variety of talent, but we're not able to produce superstars. Like, let's just look at someone like Kvaratskhelia on PSG. We've never produced anyone near them. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if that's a hot take. Pulisic's nowhere near him, right? Like, there's no one near someone like that. Mohamed Salah out of Egypt. Like, there's so many people like that like we're still nowhere near that, and it's because I think we don't have enough passion for what we do. Everything's transactional and nothing's passionate. So where we're getting things wrong is, like, I'm playing in a 10-month system for MLS Next, and then trying to play in a college for 3 months. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So you're going to train me this way, where results don't matter, it's all about development, and then I'm going to go to a place for 3 months where we have a 2-week preseason, it's all about results and not development in the slightest. So there's a lot we're doing wrong. I hope we're taking steps. I'm optimistic. It's going to be a while, I think, before we're really competing consistently on the international level. But I think the biggest thing is just there's not enough passion for what we do.
And you said it's unfair to criticize without solution.
Yeah.
Do you have ideas for solutions for any of those?
I think the biggest thing is, like, what we're trying to do on a very small level. Like, I don't want to be the person that's like, I can change U.S. soccer, right? Because it's like, A, that's like so egotistical, and B, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, can I impact things locally? And so what we are trying to do is obviously touch on every piece of the game. But I think the biggest thing is, like, creating the street soccer that we do, right? That's consistent across all countries that dominate in international level. England, Brazil, France, all of those have street soccer, pickup soccer, Croatia. So I think that's one of the biggest things. We do it, it's completely free. And that's one of the solutions. I think a solution on a more international level is, and this is something I could not do, I don't work for the board of the U.S. Soccer or anything, but, like, ideally, if we scrapped the whole MLS Next, ECNL, NAL, all these different leagues, put everything under one umbrella, and making sure that there was on the higher scale, promotion relegation, right? And every club has to have a first team. Even if that first team is competing in the UPSL, I think that would be, and then I think how it should be was that it's one league, let's say it's still MLS Next, there's a bunch of different regions, smaller regions that you play, maybe nine other teams that you're playing against, and then maybe there is a bigger tournament at the end of the season, but you're not traveling so much here and there. Yeah. So I'm not able to make that. I'd say the more thing that I'm able to offer for the solutions is the pickup soccer that we're doing and the position-specific training that we're doing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that is the answer, is everyone's just playing their role locally.
Yeah.
That's how you move the needle. So going back to flow, you're trying to make training more affordable and more meaningful.
Yeah.
Has it been hard to say no to opportunities that are easier or more lucrative? Like a lot of people that are one-on-one trainers.
Yeah.
Or you look at a lot of clubs in the U.S. soccer system, it's very money grabby.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's easy.
Right.
So I'm just curious if you felt any tension like a draw there? How do you, stay motivated to do something that's maybe a little bit less lucrative but more purposeful?
Yeah. That's definitely been hard. Like, I think that's hard in general when you're doing something that you're passionate about for a living. I've said no to so many different college offers and club offers where my family, my friends, people in the industry are like, you're an idiot for saying no to that, both status-wise and financially. Like, and I think that, like, there's parts of that when, like, there's voices that are speaking in your head that are saying, like, you need to do this, you need to do that, and, like, it's so cliche, but, like, actually sticking to what your heart is telling you, and, like, trusting that, like, a livable life will come with this financially, and you don't want to be at that school, you don't want to be in that world of, like, I have no aspirations to be a head college soccer coach, so, like, why would you be taking that step?
Right.
I think that it is really hard, but, like, I do believe that one day, hopefully somewhat soonish, I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I said no to all those things, because just putting yourself in another box and another box and another box. And so in regards also to, like, I think the concept of sometimes I get frustrated, I try not to, but, like, David, my business partner, and I get frustrated when we just see so many people that, like, they have no background coaching. There's no intention whatsoever within their coaching ability, or there are no intention with what their sessions that they're doing, and they're charging like $150 a session. Like, it frustrates us sometimes, but we're like, all right, stick to what we're doing, stick to the mission, stick to, like, what we believe in, and, like, things will come, and not in a woo-woo, like, manifest that'll work out. Just, like, things will work out. You're doing the right thing, and though you're busy right now, and like you said, though I'm probably not making as much as I could be if I was working just like a corporate job, or if I was accepting some of these offers, but your heart is in the right place, and hopefully things take care of themselves from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have like a vision of what you want Flow to look like? A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5. Like, these are pretty long timelines. But
Yeah.
Do you have a vision for what you want it to look like?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and we want to build a community here in Boston of kids that, like, specifically the Boston area of consistently kids are wanting to come to these pickup sessions. Where ideally I want to be working with kids and bringing them overseas. I have so many different connections overseas, and I want to be working with different nonprofits, continuing to work with the nonprofits that we're already working with, where we're working with kids that soccer isn't necessarily their life at all, but it's they need some good mentoring. I want to have kids that we've worked with, that we've coached, I want to have them coaching. I think that's a huge thing. And then I want to, biggest thing is the kids that we're coaching, getting them involved in volunteer work as well within the community, because there's so many studies on, like, how much that can prevent delinquency in future. It can prevent delinquency in your life if you're doing volunteer work. It can prevent, or it can increase happiness, it can increase levels of motivation, and so hopefully having them then mentor other kids and just having it almost as a cycle is the long-term goal. Within that, of course, having a lot of different camps that we can do where we're just making enjoyable environments in the summer, and there's facility one day down the line. There's cool things like that, but yeah, I'd say for now it's just continuing, I think, just to grow that community here in Boston.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? Do you have a picture in your head for the facility?
Yeah, I got some good ideas. I want it to be something where it's like a 7v7 area, kind of like where it's just like, obviously we can run training sessions there, but it's like pick up all the time going on, like men's, women's, high schoolers, whatever it may be. There's this thing out in Minnesota that's like, I'll send you their stuff, but it's like a coffee shop with like a so like that's like the long term thing, but yeah, that's kind of the long term.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where do you think your drive to do good, to help, where do you think that comes from? Again, I guess this is touching on our last question about the tension between doing something more lucrative versus something more purposeful that might, at least in the short term, be hard to make quite as much.
Yeah.
Where does that drive to do good come from?
Yeah. So a few things. I want to preface by saying I'm a very, very flawed individual, and I never want to go on a podcast and make it seem like I'm like changing the world. Like I'm very flawed, but I'll just get that out of the way. Second, I think I didn't realize it until recently, but like both of my parents were, well, I knew this, but they were both English professors. So they were in the world of education their whole life. My brother is now studying to become an English teacher, and so I had always seen a world where, you know, if I was sick, I would go into school with them, and so I always saw a world of like where my parents, they never really valued like making a ton of money and materialism as a source of like the most important thing in life. Like we were fine financially. We were very middle class. Like they were fine. We always paid the bills. I don't want to make it sound like we came from nothing, but I think that at the dinner table we'd always have dinner together, and like they would always be talking about just like what was going on at work and all those things. They were never talking about just like, don't talk to me about work. Like I don't bring my work home. That is fine. So that is for some people, and I think that that's great. Like I think that, but the world that I came from, like, and the people that I saw growing up were always in a world where they were in some degree serving others, and they were doing something they were really passionate about. Like my dad teaches. My mom was teaching like Shakespearean kind of literature. My dad teaches and does a ton of research for like African American literature, and so they were like, that's not interesting to everyone, but like they were really interested in what they were doing, and so I think just naturally I gravitated towards that of doing something that I loved, and like something that was something that was I'm continuing to learn as I do it. Like I like told you, I'm such a nerd when it comes to tactics, and like I'll see, you know, I don't know, like why is this person like inverting their center back now? Like I get so like locked onto that kind of stuff. But what inspired this was, I think, like my parents, and then also just seeing, like I said, the impact that soccer can have on the world. And not just overseas, not just in third world countries, but like everyone is struggling in a different way. Whether you're struggling financially, some rich kids I work with are struggling emotionally, and like soccer can be that thing that ties everything together and can create a space for people to just like enjoy themselves and like build relationships. And so I think that the last thing there being like, I know I've complained a little bit about America on this podcast, but like I live in America. It's very easy to start a business in America, and I'm like, you know, we do have free will, and so it's like having that belief that like, okay, I can make something happen out of this is something I'm like grateful to be able to do. So yeah,
it's a great answer.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So mostly like modeling from your parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unintentionally, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just from picking it up at the dinner table. That's interesting. And then is there anything? This is kind of a big question, but I always like to like try to weed out people's kind of life philosophy at the end. Do you have like a certain life philosophy, or a different way of asking is there one thing above others, like family, experience, fulfillment, etc., that you optimize for when you're making a big decision?
Yes. I guess I'll answer that one, and then more the life philosophy component. As I've gotten older, like I've realized the importance of relationships in life, and like there's so many studies on there's the famous study that was done at Harvard, the longitudinal study of like happiness and like longevity, and how that was determined by your strong relationships. I think it's very easy to get caught up in the rat race, to get caught up in money, to get caught up in status, to get caught up in chasing the next best thing, whereas some of the happiest people I know in life are the ones with the simpler lives, with the smaller friend group, with the smaller, very close with their family. And so when making a decision in life, like I moved to Spain when I graduated, and then I was coming back, and I've had opportunities to obviously continue to live there, move out west, all these different things, and there's nothing wrong with moving or anything, I'm not saying that, but I'm like, all of my closest relationships are here in an incredible city, and it's flawed, of course, it's extremely expensive, and like there's so many different flaws within it, but I'm like, I think that the biggest thing for me in life is like my relationships, right? I have incredible friends, I have incredible family, just so many different people that like have helped me, and that I'm grateful to be helping other people. So I think that for me, it's all about relationships, and like even when working a job, like I know people, and I'm sure you know people that work in jobs where like it's consistently impacting their marriage or it's consistently impacting their friendships, and so realizing like, hey dude, if you're making 150 grand and you're not seeing your friends versus if you're, you know, at all and you're ruining your relationships, if you're making 100 grand and you're doing this, it's like we think that the first option is the better option, but more often than not it's the second one. So
right.
yeah. And then the life philosophy, this has been one that's like really had to work on in life. Like I struggled a lot with anger in high school. Like I would get really angry, and I would hold grudges, and it was very petty. And then learning for life, my life philosophy is like learning that everyone is the way that they are for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so like not everything happens for a reason, but everyone is the way that they are for previous reasons.
Right.
I was coaching this kid when I first started coaching, and he would drive me up a wall. And another coach went up to me and was like, hey man, like he doesn't have a dad, and his mom is doing this behind the scenes. And you then start to realize that everyone is the way they are because anything that you see that's negative in someone is because of some of their pain.
Right.
That comes from myself as well. Anything that I do when I act out on someone, it's because of their pain. And so that doesn't mean you're friends with someone that does something horrific, right? But you do have compassion for every single person because everything occurred from things that have happened in the past, whether it's being bullied, whether it's being not getting enough love from their parents, whether it's a death in the family, whether it's anything along those lines. Everyone is just trying to express themselves in different ways, and I think and I still struggle with, like, it's very easy to say that, like I said, like there's a surgeon out there that has screwed me physically for life, and so I think that like being able to be like everyone is the way that they are because of past things, being able to understand that, I think is like having compassion for those people is I think for everyone in life is like the most important thing. Yeah.
That's big. This is a common theme that's come up a lot, I think, in a lot of these episodes, and I feel like it always, quote I love, I've said this so many times in this, and you've probably heard it too, from Ted Lasso, the be curious, not judgmental.
Yes.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And actually the last episode, the kid Eric, he talked about this, how it's like, oh, you're driving on the road, someone cuts you off, instantly you have, a visceral response of anger.
Right.
But you never know, why are they doing that? Are they want to see somebody else hurt?
Right. Right.
Maybe exactly like you said, everyone is the way that they are now for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I had written for questions. I'm trying to think. We covered a little bit about Emerson. Actually, I kind of do want to talk a little bit about Emerson. You talked about the culture they're building.
Yeah.
When you interviewed, what is the culture they're building? And then for anyone that's might be watching this, that's looking at schools trying to get recruited.
Yeah.
What would you say you guys look for? You did touch on this a little bit again on select generation, so I don't want to be too redundant.
Yeah.
But,
no, that was a while ago, so no worries.
Okay.
So I think what's been really cool about like my journey at Emerson is like the head coach Liam got the job a month before the season started of 2023.
Okay.
So we've been as a staff now for 2 years, and we've been a very inexperienced staff. Like it was his first year was me, him, and someone named Bo Feekins, who graduated that year. He was the captain that year. So very young staff. And now it's someone named Sean Wilson, who has also been in the college world for only like 3 or 4 years coaching. So very, very young staff, and it's been a lot of trial and error. Like it's very difficult. It's a very niche school. So if you're looking for film or sports communication or anything within like entrepreneurship, it's like one of the best schools there is out there. But if you're looking for engineering, there's nothing. So it's like it's hard to succeed there. You're going up against Babson, MIT. These are people in our conference.
Mm-hmm.
So many other tops, Coast Guard, that are just so different. And so what we're doing is like we're recruiting kind of behind like at different areas. We're going to California a lot because a lot of kids in California like what Emerson has to offer. in regards to culture, I think that what we try to do is a lot of different things that help create and make it a very player-led culture. So we have bi-weekly meetings with players, just checking in on them, making sure everything's okay. We this past season we went to our head coach's house during our one day off, or I think we had a bye week or whatever, so we went to his place, played all these fun games on the lawn and things like that. So it's cool. I mean, like it's a struggle sometimes when you're so close to the players in age. But I think that like we've seen over the past 2 years what is working, what is not working, and we're really starting to see, like this year we have 2 new captains that are just super motivated. They're doing a bunch of stuff in the off season to get the group together, and then when it comes to recruiting, we on the soccer side of things, we're looking for players that they're obviously technical, they're athletic. Athleticism is huge. You can't hide it. Like, it's so important in college soccer. You need to be athletic. We're looking for people who are going to be vocal on the field. And then when it comes to actually like getting them over the line, we're making sure that they are a good character. Like, that's the biggest thing. We'll call their club coach, we'll call their high school coach. We call anyone that has maybe played with them in the past, or we have a kid that, this kid played at this club out in LA, and so maybe you will know him. Like, is there any red flags? We'll have them come to campus, meet the team. Are there any red flags? No, it's like, all right, perfect. Like, that's kind of how it works when it comes to bringing in new players. So, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's pretty much all I had. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to touch on?
No, I mean, I think this is great. I think I'm grateful to have been able to be on a platform, able to talk about these things. Like, I think there's a lot of me that's like, even a couple weeks ago, I was like, like 2 weeks ago, I was like writing up a blog post on this, and I was like, I don't want to wait till I go on time to play. You know what I mean? Like, so man, I really appreciate you having me, and I love this, and hopefully it can inspire some people out there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, that was great.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Appreciate it. Dude. Stuff.
Good stuff.